Those infamous impalements, they weren't just the work of a madman, but the cold, calculated terror unleashed on his own treacherous elites, a brutal message carved into the very landscape. His actions were not random acts of sadism, but the desperate strategy of a prince fighting for the soul of his nation. This changes everything you thought you knew. You are about to uncover how Vlad Dracula, far from being a simple monster, masterfully weaponized fear as a desperate tool to forge a stable, independent Wallachia against the relentless machinations of both corrupt boyars and encroaching empires. For centuries, the name Vlad the Impaler has conjured visions of a bloodthirsty tyrant, a figure synonymous with unspeakable cruelty. This is the narrative enshrined in the popular imagination, largely fueled by a blend of chilling 15th-century German propaganda pamphlets and, of course, Bram Stoker's iconic novel, Dracula. We picture a gothic villain, a nocturnal creature presiding over a kingdom of fear, a man driven by an insatiable, irrational lust for torture. These stories painted him as a depraved sadist, delighting in the suffering of others, often with lurid descriptions that, even then, stretched the bounds of belief. Many accounts spoke of vast fields of impaled victims, a spectacle designed purely for his amusement. This image of him as a monstrous entity, detached from any rational motive, has become so ingrained that it feels almost sacrilegious to question it. Wallachia, his homeland, is often reduced to merely the backdrop for his atrocities, a mysterious, wild land in the heart of what we now call Romania, far from the polished courts of Western Europe. This perception of a barbaric land ruled by a barbaric king has persisted, shaping our understanding of an entire era. But Wallachia in the mid-15th century was anything but simple. It was a small principality, a Christian outpost, caught in an agonizing vice between two colossal, ambitious powers, the mighty Ottoman Empire to the south and the powerful Kingdom of Hungary to the north. Imagine being the leader of such a place. Every decision carried the weight of national survival. Every alliance was temporary. Every betrayal was potentially catastrophic. Vlad himself experienced this instability firsthand, an almost unbelievable upbringing that saw him held as a political hostage in the Ottoman court for several years, alongside his younger brother. His father, Vlad Dracula, was assassinated, and his elder brother, Mircea, was brutally blinded and buried alive by rebellious Wallachian boyars, the local aristocracy, who were often more loyal to their own power and wealth than to their prince or their country. These boyars were a constant source of internal strife. They frequently shifted allegiance, accepting bribes from foreign powers, engineering coups, and assassinating princes to advance their own interests or those of their chosen external patron. They saw Wallachia as a prize to be manipulated, not a nation to be unified. To hold power, any prince in Wallachia had to contend with this hydra-headed threat, both from without and from within. The prevailing history often overlooks this complex tapestry, choosing instead to focus solely on the horrific methods Vlad employed. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How could a man depicted as a purely irrational monster have held power for so long in such a volatile, dangerous region? How could he have repeatedly challenged one of the most formidable empires the world had ever seen? And perhaps more tellingly, how could he have been celebrated by some of his own people as a champion of justice? It simply doesn't add up to the caricature we've been handed. If you're finding this deeper look into Vlad's true story as compelling as we do, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. Your engagement truly helps History Decoded keep digging into these overlooked historical threads, signaling to the algorithms that these hidden truths matter and helping more people discover the real stories behind the events that shaped our world. Now, back to Wallachia. What if the terror wasn't an end in itself, but a brutally effective means to an end? The historical evidence, when sifted carefully, paints a radically different picture. Vlad the Impaler's methods, while undeniably horrifying to our modern sensibilities, were a calculated political tool, strategically deployed against two very specific groups: the corrupt, treasonous Wallachian boyars and any foreign enemy who dared threaten his principality. This wasn't indiscriminate slaughter. Consider the context of medieval justice. Gruesome public executions were commonplace across Europe, designed to deter crime and assert state power. Vlad simply took this to an unprecedented, chillingly theatrical level. His impalements were acts of state-sponsored terror, a visceral declaration that disloyalty, corruption, and defiance of his authority would not just be punished, but would be annihilated in the most public and agonizing way imaginable. He wasn't just killing people, he was sending an unmistakable, visceral message. One of the most revealing pieces of evidence comes from Vlad himself. In a letter to the merchants of Brasov in 1456, he warned that if they did not adhere to his trade laws and respect Wallachian sovereignty, he would nail their turbans to their heads. This isn't the rambling of a lunatic. It's a direct, chillingly specific threat of violence used to enforce economic and political policy. And he followed through. When some Brasov merchants ignored his warnings, he reportedly had many of them impaled. Their crime wasn't personal offense, but economic defiance and undermining his state's revenue. Then there are the boyars. These powerful nobles had consistently destabilized Wallachia. Vlad, remembering the fate of his father and brother, systematically purged them. He invited a large number of them to an Easter feast, and when they arrived, he questioned their loyalty and their role in the constant betrayals that plagued Wallachia. Many were then seized and compelled to march many miles to rebuild his strategic fortress of Poenari, often working until they died. Those who resisted, those whose loyalty was truly suspect, faced the stake. This was a brutal consolidation of power, a clear message that the old ways of feudal infighting and disloyalty were over. He was creating a new Wallachian state where the prince's word was law, even if that law was written in blood. His most famous tactic, the Forest of the Impaled, deployed outside Târgoviște in 1462 against the advancing Ottoman army led by Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, wasn't just a spectacle of horror. It was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. Imagine the Ottoman forces having marched for weeks, arriving to find 20,000 impaled bodies lining the road to the capital, a grotesque, silent army. This wasn't merely a massacre, it was a deliberate, calculated act designed to break the morale of the most formidable army in the world. And it worked. The Sultan, a hardened warrior, was reportedly so horrified that he turned back, abandoning his campaign for a time. Vlad was fighting a losing battle against overwhelming odds, and he understood that terror, strategically applied, could be his most potent weapon. This deeper look at Vlad's reign reveals a leader of immense strategic capability, albeit one whose methods were utterly ruthless. He wasn't just lashing out, he was carefully calibrating the infliction of terror to achieve specific political and military objectives. He leveraged fear to bring order to a chaotic land and to defend it against powerful external threats. The implications of seeing Vlad this way are profound. It transforms him from a flat, two-dimensional monster into a complex, brutal, but deeply pragmatic ruler forged in the crucible of 15th century realpolitik. It forces us to confront the harsh realities of survival for a small nation caught between empires. His constant diplomatic struggles are testament to this. He made and broke alliances with Hungarian kings like Matthias Corvinus and even with various Ottoman sultans, depending on Wallachia's immediate needs. One moment he was fiercely resisting the Ottomans, the next he might be negotiating a temporary peace, trying to buy time, secure resources, or play one great power against another. These weren't the actions of a deranged sadist, but of a desperate statesman trying to steer his vulnerable nation through treacherous waters. Archaeological findings further support this image of a purposeful ruler. While popular imagination focuses on the gruesome, excavations around sites like Poenari Fortress, Vlad's mountain stronghold, reveal sophisticated defensive engineering. This wasn't just a castle, it was a strategically vital command center, rebuilt and expanded by Vlad, often with forced labor from the very boyars he sought to control. It represents his active effort to create a secure, defensible state, a physical manifestation of his iron will. Moreover, Contemporary Slavic chronicles, less influenced by Western propaganda, sometimes refer to him as a harsh but just ruler, one who brought order and security to a land previously plagued by banditry and internal feuds. They speak of a time when one could leave gold in the public square and no one would dare touch it, for fear of the prince's swift and brutal justice. Consider how this recalibrates our understanding of medieval Europe. We often romanticize the era or simplify its leaders into heroes and villains, but Vlad's story reminds us that power, even in the hands of a prince fighting for his homeland, often demanded choices that were brutal, unforgiving, and utterly pragmatic. He understood that in his world, a world of constant invasion and internal sabotage, extreme measures were sometimes deemed necessary for survival. He left behind a Wallachia that, for a time, was unified and defiant, even if the cost in human suffering was immense. He wasn't just a prince, he was a stark symbol of a state willing to do absolutely anything to preserve itself. Vlad the Impaler transforms, then, from a two-dimensional villain into a complex, tragic figure, a brutal strategist whose horrifying methods were born from a desperate, calculated bid for his nation's survival and sovereignty. You now see him not as an aimless monster, but as a ruler shaped by unimaginably cruel geopolitical pressures, whose actions, though shocking, were rooted in a pragmatic, if horrifying, statecraft. What single detail about Vlad did your school textbooks completely overlook? If this transformation of Vlad's story resonated, like the video now. It's the easiest way to bookmark this revelation for the next time his name comes up. The story of Vlad the Impaler isn't about a monster. It's about the brutal calculus of power, the fight for nationhood, and the chilling effectiveness of terror wielded with intent. And the historical record holds even more figures, even more civilizations, whose true stories are waiting to be unearthed, far beyond the simplified narratives we've been given. Subscribe to History Decoded right now and ensure you don't miss the next astounding discovery we pull from the archives.